WECU 1570 AM and W298BX 107.5 FM, Winterville, North Carolina.
Motivations with Glenn.
Good day, everyone. Thank you for tuning into Awesome Radio, 107.5 FM, 1570 AM. You are tuned into the Glenn Johnson Show, Motivations with Glenn and Apostle Jacqueline Cullins Williams. We have a very important topic of discussion today, how to prepare for a storm. And as you can tell, we're already blanketed with snow, but still this topic is important because the snow that you see on the ground right now could just be a prelude to something bigger. So here's my co-host, Jacqueline Cullins Williams.
Hey, Dr. Glenn, and to our listening audience on today, we are happy to be here. And I must say that I am especially happy. Came to the South from the West, and I have been waiting to see some snow. And we finally have snow out there today. And I'm so happy. I mean, it's beautiful. It brings back so many memories. I wasn't going to touch the snow. I was just going to look at it. And I ended up getting a handful of it. I almost fell coming out today. So I want to say to our listening audience on today, be careful out there. It is a little bit slick and slippery, but it's beautiful. Dr. Glenn, you look like you want to say something.
Well, just like you, I couldn't wait because, I'm from the Jersey Shore. And when it snowed there, it never snowed inches. It always snowed feet. And when it snow fell last night, once it got the ground covered, or coated rather, I got in my vehicle, I left the garage, and I run on the road, the nice, clear, nice open spaces, and was doing figure eights and 360s.
Wow. I wasn't that excited to see it, but I was happy, and I am still happy to see it because down here we just don't get that much snow that often. And to see it last night and this morning, I kept looking. I was so excited. I was like, look, it snowed. And I just want to say that, that to everyone, as I said earlier, be careful out there in the snow down here in the South.
Exactly, yeah.
I have to say that sometimes I see some, a lot of mistakes with people driving. But if you cannot drive in this snow, stay in the house, stay home, stay off the roads and let it clear up a little bit more. And we have a lot of clearing today, but on the side roads in different places, it's still very icy and snowy where there's been no salt or no, um, where they have not done anything to remove any of the snow or to help it facilitate it melting.
Yeah, and just like you said, if you can stay home, stay home, because although the snow is actually melting now, because they put the de-icer down, prior to the snow hitting the ground, so it's all melting away. But that doesn't mean that it's still not slippery. There could be parts of the roadway that you can't tell is slippery, like what they call black ice. And even if you spot an ice patch or just a snow patch, you have to be very extremely careful when it's just liquid over top of that. That makes it even more slippery and more dangerous.
Definitely. And there can be some spike ice under there. And sometimes it just like in my neighborhood, we have a little incline there. And I just want to say one of my relatives wasn't able to get out. Their back end was spinning around. A lot of times tires and different things are not in the best condition. You have to keep up on those things because those things can also cause a more slippery condition, road condition for you than others. So especially if your tires are old, be very extra careful about going out in the snow because underneath that layer of snow is still a lot of ice. And like I said, in the back roads and off, places where they have not put down the things to cause the snow, and I think you called it de-icer, where those things are not, the side roads, they don't get to all of that. And in the South, there's not as much funding for that because the snow doesn't come that often.
Right.
So you may just get the major roadways where, they're being taken care of and the side streets are not more.
Yeah, and let me just reiterate, if you can stay home, stay home for a number of reasons, for your safety, the safety of others, and more importantly, so that DOT and city workers could do their job to clear the streets, and particularly with first responders. I had went to Kinston at Aden this morning, and on my back on Highway 11, there was a Pitt County EMS paramedic apparently heading that way direction, going to a call, had license, starting whole nine, but still was at a slow pace because they have to maintain safety as well. Although their emergency vehicle responded to an emergency call, they still have to adhere to their guidelines to take precaution. But if you would help, if you stay up the road, you will clear the way for them to respond to these different emergencies.
That's right. And then if you're just not used to driving in the snow, there's some people they're out here looking, they are normally struggling to drive well, and then now they're trying to get out there on the road in the snow. If you know you can't navigate though the environment, you can't navigate being out there on the road and that snow and that ice, stay off the road.
That's right, because your vehicle, like Jackie mentioned earlier, you might have a vehicle that might not be suited for these conditions. For instance, I think it was last year or a couple of year two ago, I was down by Pickety College, and this young lady was stranded at the intersection because I forgot what kind of car she had, but it was kind of like a sports car. So, of course, she didn't have snow tires on it because there's not hardly snows down here. But the tires she had on it, she wasn't going to be going anywhere because she was just slipping and sliding. The car was just packed into snow because she couldn't move because of the tires she had on the car. So you have to make sure you have the proper tires. And another thing that's important, but you have the proper windshield wipers and make sure you have fluid in your reservoir for your windshield wiper because as the snow melts and it kicks up that spray, that makes your windshield dirty, and then you won't be able to see, Jackie.
Yes, and that's why we're doing our show today. We're talking about being storm preparedness today. And Dr. Glenn has already started getting in deep and giving you those hints and tips about what you should do. And also looking at what kind of vehicle you drive, whether it's real wheel drive and all wheel drive. Because I know one of these particular vehicles, the back end spins easier depending on which wheel drive that you have. That back end will spin around on you and you'll be going in circles where other people are just driving through because because of the type of, whether you have real wheel or all wheel drive on the vehicle. And I'm not a vehicle expert, so I'm not going to, try to decipher things and go in deep concerning those things. But I do know that the rear will spin around on some of these vehicles, because I did one in a sports car that the rear would, and I was stuck, in my own neighborhood one time. I couldn't get out.
Yeah, there's another thing that's called pause attraction. Pause attraction means a certain model, make model of the vehicle, the rear wheels will spin on the slightest little thing. The front wheels will stay stationary and move normally, but the pause attraction will cause the rear wheels to spin on the slightest little thing. You could be on a banana peel, and your back wheels are going to spin. That's called pause attraction.
Yes, and some of the vehicles have it where you could turn that traction on and turn it off. When it is wintry conditions, you can flick a button and it'll do, like a Stabilitrack or different things on different vehicles, different type vehicles, to help you slow down those wheels so it's not spinning and you can get the traction to get out.
And then we have these conditions upon us. Let me just mention a couple of things you should know if you're going to go on the roadway. Make sure you have some jumper cables, some de-icer that you can spray in your locks in case your locks get frozen, because all this stuff get melted. It's going to cause liquid to penetrate into your key. We have to put your key, which might cause the locks to freeze. And also have some flares, because you don't want to be on the shoulder of the road or in the middle of the street. You have no flares down, and with all this snow on the ground, it might cause people, vision impaired, because they might be blinded by the light. And some people, that whiteness will cause, what's the word I'm looking for? It might impair their vision.
Yeah, cause things to be blurry.
Yeah. So you want to make sure you have some flares, so you can put some flare downs so that you can be seen.
Yes, we're getting ready to go out for our first break, and we want you to call in with us today if you would like to be live on the air. When we come right back, I'm going to give you that number. And Dr. Glenn, we need to write it down. We'll be right back in a moment. This is Awesome Radio. See you in a moment.
My name is Jayla. You're to see to my papa, Glenn Johnson, on the radio.
Hello to our awesome radio friends and partners. This is Akila speaking here. You can reach us at 252-756-3137. We thank you so much for listening to our awesome radio network of stations. WBISLP Espanol 106.9 FM Winterville, WYLT 100.3 FM Rocky Mount, WECU 1570 AM and 107.5 FM. We are Awesome Radio, where God gets the glory.
You're listening to Awesome Radio, WECU 107.5 FM, 1570 AM. Christian media with the spirit of excellence.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Apostle Jackie is going to give out that number, but I'm going to remind her what it is anyway. I think she knows what it is. But ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to call with a comment or question to be live on our show today, the number to call is 252-756-2008. Jackie.
Yes, that number is, and I had to make sure with Dr. Glenn. I say it every week, and I just wanted to make sure 252-756-2008. Call in and you could be live on the air with us. If you have some safety tips, or maybe you want to share a particular situation that happened to you when you were out in a storm. One thing that I heard Dr. Glenn say just a moment ago is that you need to have flares in the car. And I'm looking around thinking, who's running around with flares?
Yeah, but
And exactly where do you even buy a flare? We talk about being emergency prepared, but a lot of times when we get out into an emergency, we're out on the road with nothing because we have not done anything to prepare.
and if you have a cell phone, make sure you have the charger so you can charge it up. Because if you're in a vehicle, of course you don't have your regular 12 volt, 120, 200 to 12 outlet to plug it into. So you want to plug it to your car cigarette port or adapter. So make sure you have the charger with it. in case the phone goes dead and you're stuck on the side of the road.
Right.
But to answer your question about the flares, flares normally would come inside of a vehicle emergency kit, or you can go to any auto store and they have flares.
And that's what I was going to say. Maybe should invest in buying or having an emergency kit, because the truth of the matter is a lot of us, if we was out on the road stuck, we would just be out there trying to pray our way through, because we would not have anything inside of the vehicle. I remember in the past that somewhere it said to keep some food in there, at
That's
least
right.
some little snacks.
Yeah.
There's a little blanket that is like it looks kind of almost like aluminum foil for warmth in case you're stuck inside of a vehicle. But to be honest with you, a lot of us don't have that stuff right now. I mean, I would be in trouble if I was stuck out on the road. I'm praying my way through somebody or
Yeah.
something coming for me. But the truth of the matter is we do need to be more prepared.
And in addition to what you said about the food, in one of the documents we have in front of us, there's also a section for medication. What you should do if you're on the road and you have medication with you, what are the safety tips concerning the medication? So keep all those factors in mind. And I just want to point out again and reiterate the flare situation, because you want to provide safety for yourself and others. You want to provide safety for yourself in case that vehicle might not be able to see you. They'll see the brightness of the flare, and to avoid a collision. That's why the flare is so important.
Oh yeah, I can understand that, especially in whiteout conditions.
Yeah,
I can
exactly.
understand the importance of it, but wouldn't your flashing hazard lights be just as good to turn them on and flash?
Well, turn those on as well. Look, the more light, the better it is. If you can turn on everything you can without running down your battery, turn it on.
Yes. I we're going to talk about and go look at some particular things, and we've already started talking about those things as far as being storm preparedness. The things we were speaking of were about being in the car, but there are also some things you could do inside of your house. And we also had warning that the storm was coming here to this city. The kids are out of school for a certain amount of days, even today and possibly tomorrow.
I'm glad you pointed out the thing about the house. That just brought something to my attention. So on Sunday, on our virtual brain injury support group meeting, one of the facilitator had mentioned that she didn't want to forget to pour any freeze down your drains, to keep your drains from freezing and your pipes from freezing. She said pour any freeze down your drain.
Well, Dr. Glenn, who just has antifreeze sitting around? Some of this stuff it just seems um, it's practical, but non-practical to some people that just don't have antifreeze sitting
And
around. Well,
plus,
you gotta go buy
well,
antifreeze.
and plus, I don't think it's good for the your sewer system or your water treatment
Right?
system.
Isn't antifreeze poisonous?
Yeah. So I don't think that pouring that down the drain is a good idea.
Right. So, but what I do know is that you can leave your water on just a little bit. Leave it to a nice little drip so that your pipes do not
So
freeze.
it's circulating, so it won't freeze. Yeah.
That's right. So don't. I'm not saying leave it wide open, because you don't want $1 million water bill after this is over, and then it could be nothing. The pipes could have not froze. But you leave it on just a little bit of a nice drip where you can get some water through.
I'm glad you said that because last week I had to go to a department store and pick up some ice trays because my freezer stopped making ice, and what I suspect is either the filter or the lines are frozen.
That definitely could be so. Another thing that I know you can do is open the cabinets where the pipes are in the house. Open the cabinets so that some heat can get under there, and that can also keep it from being frozen coming into the house. So that's another thing that I saw. And I got to thank my dear husband for that. I saw him going through opening up cabinets. I was like, what's he doing?
You looking for some food?
No, no, he was storm prepared, and he knew, even some of the apartment complexes, they will send you, or townhomes or whatever you're in, they will send you information about how to keep your pipes from freezing. So he was taking one of the hints that he had gotten, and he was opening up the cabinets.
Well, let me just go back to this antifreeze thing. Check with your local authorities to find out what their recommendation is because, as far as I know, I don't think you just put antifreeze down the drain.
And I'm gonna tell you the truth, Dr. Glenn. I never seen that printed. I've never witnessed it printed anywhere telling you to pour antifreeze down the drain. I
I
mean,
know, I
that's
know,
that's a deep one.
I know. Last year when we did a topic similar to this, it had mentioned something about antifreeze in your pool to keep your pool from freezing. So I'm telling you, check with your local authorities because I do recall when we did the show with Mr. What was it from the Big County recycling place. Remember, and he said there's certain things you can't use even when you wash your car in the summer. Certain kind of chemicals that might be in it to wash might contaminate the drinking water.
Well, I just have a question. Why would you need antifreeze to keep the pool from freezing? It's another one of those questions that doesn't seem to make sense to me. I mean, it's wintertime.
Yeah,
Let the pool freeze. It's the wintertime.
because you're not going to be in the pool anyway.
That's right. So why do you need to keep it? Well, maybe they're trying to say the lines to the pool.
I think that's what it is. But
Yeah.
we're not going to get off the subject. We're not going to get off the subject. We got some more tips on that front first page that you have, Jackie.
Yes, and I also, before we get leave our broadcast today, I'm going to give us a few tips about what to do with kids because we talked about kids being out of school. Just a few things you could do with them while you're out. These kids, they get so stir crazy. They're in there running around through the house, probably eating all the snacks and stuff because they're usually at school. It's a little bit something different. I saw some Dr. Glenn on the way in today. They had their sleds with their parents in my neighborhood going down one of the hills. They were over there making, sledding through down a small hill in my neighborhood. And I mean, the whole family and a bunch of people were out there on this little incline trying to do sledding in this little bit of snow. I mean, what is it? Just like 3 inches?
I was going to say something, but I don't want to talk about our children. I don't want to disrespect our children, so I'm not going to make a comment on that at this time. I was going to say, I know what we can do with them, but I'll leave that alone right now.
Yeah, no, we want some good suggestions
I
for our
know.
children.
I don't want to joke around today. I don't want to joke around. This is a very important topic of discussion.
Oh, yes. And so we're going to get back to our topic and stay on task today. We want to talk about assembling an emergency kit. And that is whether you are in the car or even in your house.
Yeah.
When you know there's going to be a storm, you need to definitely be looking out food wise and looking drink wise for what you have in the house. Don't be caught in a storm and have no food at all. And let's look at, and I'm going to say it and talk about it from down here in the South, some of the things that I've witnessed that people are doing and that they do every single time there's going to be a storm. But we're getting ready to go out on a break, and I'm going to invite you again that if you would like to join us on the air, 252-756-2008 is our number. I'm going to say it again. That number is 252-756-2008. Call in and you'll be live on the air with us right here at Awesome Radio. We'll be right back with you in a moment. Come on back, Awesome Radio.
Hello, my name is Hayden. Thank you for listening to Awesome Radio, 107.5 FM, 1570 AM, WECU.
This worker was fired for religious speech outside of work. Stay tuned.
Here's a story worth hearing from attorney David Gibbs Jr. of the Christian Law Association.
Leanne works for a retail store in the state of Massachusetts. Not long ago, the store hired a transgender employee who insisted that everyone use preferred pronouns. Not believing that this was right, Leanne did not use the pronouns. One day after work, Leanne asked if she could ask some personal questions, and she was given permission. When she tried to better understand the person's idea,
children and concerning their school. To things. And I know there were several parents that didn't know that there was an early release that day. So stay connected to the school and look at those things in the morning. And maybe sometimes you got to periodically, right after the day is started or the work day is started, look at those things and see what's happening.
And in addition to schools being closed, a lot of municipality uh, government programs and offices are closed as well. So what normally might be in session, it probably canceled until further notice.
Yes, watch it. There's certain things that come across the news broadcast and even the local news on social media. Find those particular stations and click on it in on your social media so you can stay alert. Even if you don't know, you can go to that particular station on your social media and be able to click and find out what's going on.
I know in Winterville, uh, the sections that would have had trash pickup or recycling day, that has been canceled as well because of the roadways.
Yes, so there, those are the things you'll be able to find alerts with. Toxins that could get into the water because you left it in the car.
Yeah.
So make sure that your water is fresh there. And that's something that you have to look after. I don't know about you, but I'm always leaving bottles of water in my car. I'm always they on the sink, they rolling around. I mean, not on the sink, the seat, and they're rolling around under the seat, sometimes all over the car. So water might not be an issue for me because I always have something left in there that I didn't finish drinking, and it's in the car. Dr. Glenn?
I have like 2 bottles of water sitting in my side console right now as we speak. I'm like you, I always keep water in my car.
And I have to figure out which one is fresh and which one has been in there since last week.
And not only the water, I got a big old bottle of hand sanitizer in my glove compartment,
Wow.
and I'm gonna keep that there forever.
Now I tell you what I do have, Dr. Glenn, and it says here on our list here is a first aid kit.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna be cold. I'm not gonna have any flares, but I will have a first aid kit if something goes wrong.
All right, but mention the first aid kit. I want all you listeners to listen to this. If you have a first aid kit, please examine your first aid kit for expired items. Because believe it or not, there are items in the first aid kit that might be expired, that has an expiration date on it. Even gauze has an expiration date. If your first aid kit has Benadryl, definitely check for the expiration date because Benadryl has an expiration date. Band-Aids has an expiration date. Would you believe the gauze in the Band-Aid has an expiration date? It's like a material, but it has an expiration date, believe me, because it might be a medicated something on it, which makes it have an expiration date.
Right, because I was getting ready to say now, am I going to look and say, well, look, I'm not going to use my Band-Aid because it's expired. I'm going to use it. I don't know. I guess if it has medication, then that makes a difference.
Yeah, it
But
might have some kind of antiseptic.
yeah, those are the kind. But I'm sure that regular Band-Aids don't expire like that.
Because you just want to stop the bleeding.
That's right. And you want to look at, and who looking for the expiration date anyways? You just want to put the Band-Aid on and wear it.
Which is what people normally do anyway.
Yeah. So I guess if it's medicated, you should look at it. But I'm just sorry. If you're bleeding, you're going to want to use that Band-Aid, medicated or not. Dr. Glenn?
I see all the points that you just made. I see all the points in that, but you should know that's why we're having this topic, and that's why I'm pointing it out. There could be an expiration date, so make sure you check frequently. Check your first aid kit prior to use, so you'll know what's expired and what's not. That way you can replace it beforehand.
Well, it also says to have a waterproof bag in there and some cash. Now, there's another gray area, keeping cash in the car. Do you really want to keep some money in there so that somebody else starts suspecting that and going in there? I mean, you even have to be careful about keeping change in the change tray.
But what about the waterproof bag? In case there's a flash flood, you want to jump inside the bag?
Well, I guess if you're wet, you could put your wet clothes in there. I'm
Right.
not sure why they said it, but they want you to have a waterproof bag. Or maybe it's the flood or the water's coming through, and you might need that bag to
30 seconds before we go to our next break, then we'll be back with our final 20 minutes.
You might need that bag to cover something up, but they want a waterproof bag. I'm sure you'll find a use for it if there's an emergency.
Well, when we get through some of these documents, we'll find out exactly what they mean by that.
Yeah, we might have to come back with that one to see what we're going to do with that waterproof bag. Dr. Glenn, again, if you want to join us, that phone number is 252-756-2008. And call in and we'll bring you live on the radio. This is Awesome Radio. Right back in a moment.
Keep it locked right here to the Glenn Johnson Show.
For helping Christians in your local public schools, this is Gateways to Better Education. I'm Eric Bueller. Most people don't realize that Christian missionaries are the reason why so many people around the world learned to read. Robert Woodbury, a political science professor at National University of Singapore, stated in his research that, quote, missionaries wanted people to read the Bible in their own language, which meant poor people and women needed to be able to read, unquote. He specifically pointed out that the tribal people of Northeast India did not have a written language at all before the 1890s. But once missionaries helped them develop a language, almost all of them became Baptists. Today, this region has the highest literacy rate in India, with most of that being among women. Christians have made a positive impact on world development, and our students need to learn about it. For an article on Dr. Woodbury's research, visit gogateways.org/radio.
Hello, my name is Daniel from Greenville. We appreciate you for listening to Awesome Radio 107.5 FM, 1570 AM, WECU Radio in Greenville.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Glenn Johnson Show. Motivation with Glenn and Apostle Jacqueline Cullins Williams. Apostle, if you don't mind, I would like to jump down to the document prepared for a storm, Pitt County, North Carolina. Since we are in Pitt County, I figure we'll take the next 10 minutes to offer what we have from this document for our Pitt County residents. It is very good information. I'll start at the target and give it over to Apostle. to prepare for a storm in Pitt County, North Carolina, you can make a plan, create a communication plan, and an evacuation plan. Jackie.
Yes, Dr. Glenn, I see that. And again, like on this document, on as on others, it talked about stocking up on non-perishable food. And I want to say this about this area because I alluded to this earlier, and I'm coming back to it now. In this particular area, people buy all of the milk and the bread. When you go into the store, the milk and the bread, and I've never understood buying all the milk and the bread.
I know.
When it said buy non-perishable, you would think that there's a storm like today or whatever, if the power goes out or something, that people would be buying canned soup and canned goods and, like, noodles and different things that you could heat up with just a little bit of water. But they're buying, I've never understood the milk and the bread. The bread aisle wiped out and no milk. Are you going to make milk sandwiches? I mean, what is going on with that? So I figured that, and this is just my knowledge, I don't know why, but I'm going to figure that it's people that have children and they're trying to make sure that they have like milk for cereal and those type of things for the children.
But if you can recall during the pandemic, they had to remind people, leave some of those items for our seniors because seniors were going to the store and they're very limited supply because everybody took everything already. So keep our young children in mind and our senior adults for certain items.
Yes, and I went this time earlier, so I didn't get to see what was wiped out in the grocery store this time because I went days ago. I knew that this was going to happen, and days ago I had already prepared. And so I didn't see what they wiped out. And we remember during the pandemic, it was toilet tissue. It was a toilet tissue shortage during the pandemic, what that I saw in this area. I had to try to catch the truck a couple of times as it was coming to the store trying to get some toilet tissue. So I don't know if they did that this time.
Now, I want to mention something before I give it back over to you because we have a lot more to cover in these 20 minutes, but particularly 7 more minutes for this Pitt County topic. I want to remind residents and people who work and live in Pitt County, you are encouraged to enroll in the Hyper Reach by calling or texting alert to 252-347-0170 or online at hyperreach.com and see Pitt sign up. And that's where you can sign up for the HyperReach. What the HyperReach is an alert system that I signed up for last year. It would send, once you register from your home desktop computer or laptop. It would send out an alert to your email, your home phone, or your cell phone, plus a text message to your cell phone about any impeding emergencies or alerts or any kind of things that's happening in the Pitt County area. So that is the Pitt County Hyper Reach. I encourage everyone to sign up for that.
Yes, one thing that I saw here on another document, which I felt like it was good for Pitt County as well, was to look at maintaining your property. And what we mean by that is trees. That if you have trees, like right now, that snow is very heavy, and it's very heavy on the roof. It's very heavy on the trees. If you have trees that it looks like the limbs are going to break and those type of things, get those things taken care of before there's a storm and now the tree has fallen over into your house or one of the limbs have come through the roof. I passed the house this week and I was asking what happened to the house, and a person told me that the tree fell on it and it just demolished the top level of this nice house.
Yeah, and in addition to that, now I know we're not in a climate where it's going to develop a lot of icicles, but keep that in mind in case it do get to cold enough where the trees do develop icicles. Somebody's walking up under the tree, if the icicle just happen to break, it's so sharp and heavy, it'll go right through a person's head.
Consider a generator.
Yeah.
Consider getting a generator. I definitely was looking around my particular dwelling saying, what would we do if the lights were out? What would we do if there was no electricity to stay warm and also to heat food? What would you do? Have you looked around to see a lot of these places, Dr. Glenn, and to our listening audience, they have now electric stoves. What if you don't have access to electricity? My particular place has a gas fireplace. So I looked at that and thought, oh, wow, I could still eat and stay warm if there is no electricity. And I also saw on one of our social media outlets where they took tea light candles. They took four of them and put them inside of the 4 cups of a muffin tin, and they put the pot on top of that, and they were able to heat up the water or boil or heat up their food.
Yeah, now, Apostle mentioned that generators. We do have one document from OSHA on using portable generators for safely. So we'll get to that document. We'll just get to the first couple of paragraphs. Then we'll go out to the break. We'll come back and finish. And let me give Apostle a copy of this document.
Yeah, because I don't have it, Dr. Glenn.
And it's using portable generators safely. Apostle.
Yes, and it talked about here what to do with the generator. Never attach the generator directly to the electrical system of the structure of the home. Also, wanted to say, what is it called? Solar panels and solar energy is also a good option for if the power ever goes off. Sometimes you should think about that, getting that as another energy source that would help at a time. And it talked about hazards and associated with generators, shock and electrocution from improper use of power or accidentally energizing other electrical systems. Carbon monoxide from generators and from the generator's exhaust. Because what I understand with the generator, it's like a motor that is running, and it has to be in a well ventilated place.
Exactly.
And some people are closing them in, like in their garage, or trying to put it in a closed space on their back porch or someplace near the rear of the house to use it, for electricity. And it has to have a place where the exhaust fumes are be able to escape the home.
That's right. It definitely has to be ventilated.
Yes. So, and it also talked about fires from improperly fueling a generator or inappropriately storing the fuel for a generator. Most of them, from what I understand, use gas. It's like a gas generator.
It could be a mixture of gas, because a lot of them just don't run from straight gas, like certain lawn equipment just don't run off of straight gas. There's a mixture of gas and some other kind of fluid.
Gas
So,
and oil or something.
yeah, but like you said, your best bet is to get something that runs off of solar power, because you don't need any electricity, you don't need to get gasoline, any kind of liquid gas or anything like that to power it. So your solar generator would be best off.
And
best
so
suited.
you need to actually know what you're doing here when you're talking about using a generator. Already before that time of emergency, you should have already looked at what you need to do, how you need to operate it, how you need to, let out the exhaust fumes. It even talks here about using proper cords, because that can be a fire hazard to plug in the wrong type of cord into that directly into the generator. So you want to have done your research before you start using the generator. Just don't get it up and start using it. I used to have one in my garage. I mean, it was brand new when I lived, in the West, and I I have no clue. I had no clue then, and I still have no clue about how I would have had to use that thing.
Remind me when we come back from the next break. I wanted to explain something to you about electrical cords and things of that nature. So we have 40 seconds, 30 seconds before we got to the break. Jackie.
Yes, I am still inviting you to call in today to be a part of our show. We're winding down our clock here time, but we can take you on and you can get and be live on the show on today. That number is 252-756-2008. Come on and call in. I'll repeat it again. It is 252-756-2008. Call in and be a part of our show. You can be live on the air with myself and Dr. Glenn. Dr. Glenn?
WECU 107.5 FM. Back in a moment.
My name is Jayla, and you're to see to my papa, Glenn Johnson, on the radio.
And we're back already, ladies and gentlemen. I wanted to mention something to Apostle, or give an explanation about when she mentioned the cords and things of that nature. So remember this. A lot of your electrical cords, you have to have the right one that you're plugging into something, because a lot of things run by ohms, amps, There's a lot of variations, a lot of different things. Also, some of the things might have a fuse, so you have to make sure you have extra fuses in case a fuse blow, because it might have been tripped, which would blow the fuse. The reason why it blows the fuse to prevent anything else from blowing. So that's why you have things that has a fuse. But if you don't have the right fuse, that could create a problem too. There's a there could be two fuses running all different kinds of voltages. It could be 5 volt, 10 volt, 15, 20, 25, whatever the voltage needed for that fuse to operate that piece of equipment. So a lot of your electrical components has fuses to run on ohms, amps, and different things of that nature. So you have to have the right one paired with the right device. Just don't stick anything into a socket.
Definitely know what you're doing and do your homework before you're trying to use that generator and those type of things that are powering your electrical appliances and things that you may need in case of energy, in case of the lights or going out and those particular things. Also wanted to say to you, it said here to get insurance. Make sure that you have insurance. Even those of you that are renting places, you can get renter's insurance. Make sure that your insurance is up to date. Make sure your policy covers anything that could happen in an emergency, which is weather related, hurricane, which is even be snow, flooding, or anything like that. Make sure that your insurance covers what you could possibly need.
Particularly if you're one of those individuals or you're in a situation where your power is out and you want to light candles, you definitely need to make sure you have insurance and it's up to date, because if you're using candles, that is definitely a fire hazard. Particularly if there's young children running around that might tip over a candle, that might catch your drapes on fire. And all it takes is a second, 3 seconds, and your whole house will be engulfed in flames. So you definitely want to make sure your insurance is up to date.
And that's exactly what it says here is keep children away from open flames. That means that if you have to start a fire in the fireplace or outside or wherever you're doing it to stay warm, that you watch the kids to make sure that they are not in danger.
Now you see that, Jackie? I'm not using a teleprompter. I know that because I am a former firefighter.
I know, Dr. Glenn, this is the lens in which you see through. I know Dr. Glenn knows all these things and he can rattle them off right off. He went right into talking about how to use the plug. I'm sitting over here looking, going, okay. Because he knows, he sees through that lens of safety from being a firefighter.
Yeah, that's right.
And an ex police officer and
Yeah,
ex-military,
yeah, that's
right?
right. And that's why topics like this is so near and dear to my heart, because I want to educate our people. If what they don't know, and I know I want to share it with them, so you can just be as intelligent as I am.
Well, let me tell you this, Dr. Glenn, over
Oh.
there with all your wisdom and your intelligence and all this stuff, you did not know what we need that bag for. Remember we said a waterproof bag?
I'm still pondering on that.
Yeah, so Dr. Glenn doesn't know at all. I'm going to figure it out, though, and we're going to figure out what we need that waterproof bag for.
There's only one person that's all knowing to me. That's our God, our Lord God.
Oh, yeah. But we also want to give you your props because you do know a lot about safety and you could just go right into it and tell us all we need to know, at least basically. And I can appreciate our differences and I can appreciate saying to you that you know more than me in that area.
But let me ask you a question. Do you have the document over there that mentions the waterproof bag? Because I'm anxious to find out why they said that.
Yes, definitely. And it's this particular one that said how to be storm prepared. It said waterproof bag down here. Yes.
But does it say why?
No, it didn't. It just
All
said,
right, so I got to go back and research that.
yes, it said, well, what it wants you to do is it does say in front of it, important documents. They want you to
That's
put
right,
your
yeah.
documents in a waterproof
That's
bag.
right. And,
Well, who's walking around with all of that unless you know there's going to be a hurricane or something that you have to be evacuated for? Then yes, you're going to have a waterproof bag, but you're not going to be running around with that in the car all the time,
No.
with your personal documents and important documents in those things. So that they mean that, I mean, it's common sense that you would try to put your documents in something that would keep it dry. I could see that, but just having that in the car, no. And also, you have to kind of know that there's a storm coming to be able to use those. One last second and one last moment, Dr. Glenn, I'm going to invite them 252-756-2008. You could call. We got a few minutes left, and you could be on the air with us. Dr. Glenn?
Going back to these documents and things that keep in your car. As you know, your insurance and your registration should be always in your car, in your glove compartment. And I'm saying that because when I lived in New Jersey in one particular time, I got stopped by a police officer. After I identified myself, he said, "Yeah, but Officer Johnson, how come you don't have the insurance or registration?" I said, "Well, because my fiance I was going out with at the time, she kept it in her pocketbook. She felt safer within her pocketbook rather than in her glove compartment." And I said, "Well, you don't think I'm going to carry her pocketbook around, do you?" And he let me go.
Wow, you should have had that in the car. I want to say to our parents, just give you a couple of things that right now, before we get ready to end our broadcast, that you can do with the kids. And a few things are board games. And I want to say you can help those kids catch up on their schoolwork and their reading and the things that they need to do daily that they may be behind
Yeah,
on.
that's a good idea.
Email
Particularly
them
at home.
teachers and see what they are missing and get a chance to do that work and catch up those kids in the classroom.
Well, since they're out of school and the teacher's out of school, how about you gather up all the kids, put them in the car, take them over to the teacher house?
Maybe the parents should find out how it is to work with their
Yeah,
kids,
that
or
too.
what the teacher had normally has to do. And I think that would be a good thing. See how difficult or how easy it is to teach your own child.
All right, I said I wasn't going to have no humorous moments today. Those are very important. But I had to get that one out.
Board games. It talked about do some board games, do some card games, pull out that Uno and get out those dominoes. Maybe teach your child how to play dominoes or some of the games that you grew up on. Learn them, teach them how to play spade and different things like that. Build a fort, have some dance parties, do a scavenger hunt, and take them into the kitchen and bake some cookies. Teach them how to cook while they're out of school.
And in addition to what was aforesaid, I'll mention this to everybody. This is a very, very interesting topic, and we have a lot of safety tips that we're not going to get to. So, in the alternative, if you would like to have a copy of these documents, please don't hesitate to email me, like most of you do, at glennjohnsonshow@gmail.com. That's Glenn with two N's, Johnson Show, all one word, @gmail.com. I'll be more than happy to forward the documents to you. Apostle Jackie will end the broadcast with 1 minute and 30 seconds ago.
Hey, take some time while those kids are out, clean up that house, get things prepared. It's not too early to do some spring cleaning, and it's not too early to do planning for your summer vacation and for the things that you want to participate later on in this year. Take some time to think, take some time to take care of yourself and make plans for yourself, for your health, for your life, for your spirit man, and for your physical man. It's not too late to continue to look forward to what you want to happen in 2025. And so on today, before we end our broadcast, I pray that all of you are safe out in this weather. I pray that God is blessing you and he's keeping you mind, body, spirit, and soul. And I pray that you will be back here on the air with us on next week at 3 o'clock. Dr. Glenn?
Let's thrive in 2025. And by the grace of God, Lord Jesus, I want to thank you for all your grace and mercy upon us so far. Thank you for the many blessings that we have received. Apostle Jackie will close the broadcast out at this time.
Yes, come on back here next week, and we'll be right here at 3 o'clock. We have some interesting subjects we're going to pass on to you, and we'll have some guests coming up soon on our next broadcast.
That's right. So stay tuned with us. Stick and stay. You have listened to another broadcast of the Glenn Johnson Show, Motivation with Glenn and Apostle Jacqueline Cullins Williams, here on Awesome Radio, WECU 107.5 FM, 1570 AM, Christian Media with the Spirit of Excellence. See you so folks soon. God bless you all.